Hey, what's up guys? Mike here. Today we're going to be talking all about the equipment that we're going to be using on the Ancient Gardens Aquarium. I know, but we're going to make it interesting. There's a lot of stuff here that I haven't used before and I bet you haven't heard of. This is of course a big beautiful water box aquarium, 167 gallon tank. If you guys didn't see the first video on this aquarium, you gotta go check it out. I'll have it linked in a playlist down in the description. Let's start with the lighting since I already have some pieces of the equipment up here. This is a 6-foot light made by Current USA. I met with a couple of their reps at the most recent Aquashella and I was immediately drawn to their booth because they had these really cool backlights on their tanks, and you guys know how much I love backlights. So we got to talking and they decided that they wanted to send me out some stuff to try on this humongous aquarium. So we have two 6-foot of the Serene lights. That's the kit that comes with the backlight, and it also comes with some speakers. It's a little crazy. We'll get to that in a little bit. But I knew for this project I had basically two options, and that was to either go with two 6-foot lights. I knew that I needed to have probably a double stack going on with the lights because this tank is 25 inches from front to back. So I could either do that, or the alternative was basically to get 4 3-foot lights and figure out how I was going to hang those. And you guys know me, obviously Fluval 3.0 lights are what I use over on the 40s, and I love them, they're great. There are hanging kit options for those lights. That was something that I would have had to do for those unless I wanted to like literally duct tape 2 of them together to make a 6-foot light, since they don't make a prefab 6-foot light. But I decided to go this route instead to have a little bit more of a cleaner looking setup. Current doesn't just have this light, they have a few other freshwater ones. They have the Satellite Plus and the Satellite Pro Plus, I believe they are, and they have a few different features, mainly with power output and stuff like this. So the Serene that we have up on this tank is not the most high-powered light in the world. It's still going to give us about 25 par at 2 feet, which is decent. It's going to be more than enough for the setup that we have going on over here, and that might change in the future. We are talking about getting some of their more high-powered lights to try on this tank. We just won't know until we have everything set up. Anyway, let's flip the camera around and let's check out what comes in the box when you order a Serene lighting kit. This is a super long box. I'm not going to be able to get it the entire shot here, guys, but let's check it out here. So you obviously get the Serene LED right here. So we have 6500K white LEDs, RGB. Let's pull this thing out. The kit also comes with some of this frosted film to put on the back of your aquarium, which helps the backlight. Unfortunately, over here on our tank, there's no way that I can put this stuff on here. I can't move the tank. Luckily for me, I have a plain white wall back here, so it does a pretty good job of reflecting the light. I think we're gonna be okay, but it is a shame that we can't get this stuff on here. We'll have to do it for another tank in the future. Set that over here, and then we have, let's pull out the speakers. Are these the, yeah, there we go. So these speakers are actually designed to be mounted on the sides of your tank, one on each side, and then we'll show it here in a little bit, but the remote actually has presets for different sounds that will play. Now I realize that that isn't for everybody. I think it's something that's definitely interesting. Obviously they're trying to innovate the way that people interact with their aquariums. I appreciate that in any capacity that a company tries to do, so we'll mess around with that a little bit later in the video and see how they sound. But let's see what else we got in here. I believe this is the controller. Nope, that's just the power brick. The controller is over here. So this is what your light is going to plug into, your main light. And then you're also going to be able to plug the light bar into this, as well as the speakers, and then control everything from a central remote. So there's that. We have it hooked up over here. I'll show you really quick. So it comes with some mounting tape so that you can put it on the front of your aquarium, but this is going to be doing some crazy stuff here on the film. It's not doing this in real life. The camera's just picking it up, kind of weird. So we have our light plugged in, we have our light bar plugged in, and then we will also plug our speakers in right there. The last thing we have in the box is our light bar. I'm not going to take it out quite yet, but you can see I have it set up over here on the back of the aquarium. It comes with a few different mounting options. There's suction cups that I'm just using here, but there's also some little brackets that you can screw into your cabinet to hold the light as well. I didn't do that, again, because I can't really reach back there anymore, but I think this is going to be fine. The suction cups seem to be doing just fine. The Serene kit comes in 4 different sizes, so you can get it in a 2 foot, a 3 foot, a 4 foot, and then of course a 6 foot like we have here. Now you will notice that the light bar for some reason isn't quite 6 feet. There's a little bit of a gap here on the end on each side, but I think it's still doing its job. Luckily, if you guys are into the whole backlighting thing but you don't want to buy an entire new light, you can also buy just the backlight separately, and that's going to come with its own little power source and its own little remote right here, so you can control that independently of, you know, whatever other light you have. I think this was a super important thing for them to offer, because obviously not everybody is in the market to get a new light fixture. You might just want this piece, so that's an option in all the different sizes as well. We're gonna get this second light hooked up here in just a second, and then kind of go over a little bit more about the light and why we're using it. Guys, let's check out the clamps though. These are also made by Current. So we have the L brackets here, and they are double stacked. Let's see if we can get a better shot of this on the other side of the tank. That might be a little bit better. So we can put our second light in here. Now I've done something a little different. I put the bracket on backwards, and that was to get a little bit more reach. This is a super deep tank, guys. Again, 25 inches. So it's going to be tough to get a light in the front of the tank and still have it hanging like this. Here's an example of the bracket mounted the correct way. You can see it's about an inch more towards the back of the tank, and there's actually a further little modification that I can do here on this bracket to get the light out a little bit farther, and I might do that a little bit later on once we get the tank set up. Okay, let's mess around with some of the preset sounds here, guys. This is interesting. So that was what we were just listening to. This is the stream. It kind of gets a little mystical there. Let's try Stargaze. Looks like 5 different volumes, 1 to 5. So there's quietest. There's the loudest. Let's try Rainstorm. Okay, a little bit of thunder. Maybe we pair that with the lightning feature of the light. That might be kind of cool. Just some real relaxing harmonics that you can have at the touch of your fingers on this little remote. Kind of interesting. Let's do the last one here. Let's check out the forest. Oh, it's got frogs. Some crickets. Okay. Interesting. The speakers aren't bad either, guys. I mean, they are what they are. They're not crazy high quality, but I guess they don't really need to be because they're not playing something that's super bassy or anything like that. Let's go ahead and let's mute this. You don't have to hang these lights. They do have traditional kind of end pieces here to sit on the sides of the tank. And I could see, you know, worst case scenario, we end up doing something like this if we need to have more light in the foreground of this tank once it's set up. That wouldn't be too bad, but I'm gonna go ahead and hang it up here just to get a feel for what it's like with the double lights going on. We got the second light on, guys, and they're both on full blast right now. The remote down here is kind of crazy in its own right. There's a lot of different options here, a lot of different things to play with. We have controls for the main lights, we have controls for the back lights. We can do some different settings with that thing, which I'll show you in just a second. And then we have some modifications you can make to the color spectrum of the main lights, and then setting it up for 24/7 mode, stuff like that. There's lots of different things we can do with the backlight, guys. So if we zoom in here on the remote and let's press, we got this button right here, will take us through all of the different colors that the light will make, and then we can press that same button again to stop on the color that we want to keep. There's also some different fades that we can pick on the remote. So we can pick a nice green to blue fade and it'll go through the transition for us. Let's select this nice purple though. I like that one. Let's keep that around. Something that you guys got to keep in mind is that the camera is not picking up the true weight of the color. It looks a lot better in person. The color of this purple is actually going up to about here and fading out. It's a shame that we can't really capture it for you, but it's pretty sweet. I'm really glad a company has decided to make a product like this. You guys know that I made my own version of this, the super cheap way with the styrofoam and the LEDs off of Amazon, and that does work, but you guys know if you've bought LEDs on Amazon before, they never really work quite the way you want them to. They break a lot. And actually over here on the Avatar tank, my do-it-yourself light bar stopped working. It got a horrible flicker in it, and it's not good. Also, I went down here and checked, and it was super hot. So we unplugged that, and we're probably going to be transitioning to the current Serene setup for all of these tanks over here as well. I was just talking to my contact over at Current. I had a few questions about the controllers. Mainly it was if you could connect these two so that one remote could control both of them. That is the case. They do have a piece for that, so he's sending me that over. As it stands right now, these are two separate things that you can control with one remote, but it's just depending on, you know, if you can reach that particular IR sensor. So we do have independent control of these lights, but there is something that can connect them both so that they always do the same thing. Guys, I also want to tell you that Current is working on a ton of new innovative stuff. I can't get into the details of everything, but there is going to be Bluetooth phone-controlled app for all of this stuff coming super soon, and it's going to work with all the pre-existing stuff that we're like unboxing here today. So a lot of really cool stuff coming out of Current USA. I'm really excited. Somebody has been needing to do this stuff for a long time, and based on what I've heard from them, this whole setup and system and controllability is going to be exactly what we've all been waiting for. Needless to say, I'm really excited for it. I'm super thankful to have this equipment for the tank. I think it's going to turn out to be exactly what we need to make this aquarium awesome. So that's enough for the lighting. I mean, there's a million other things we could talk about. We could get into the details of the 24-hour timer modes. I mean, there's so much stuff that you can do with this setup. We just don't have time for it today, so we'll probably get into that in follow-up videos. Let's move on to filtration for this aquarium, because that's obviously going to be super important as well. For this setup, we're going to be using a Biomaster Thermo 600 made by Awase. I've never used Awase products before, and to be honest with you, I didn't even really know how much of an aquarium company they were until like a few months ago. I started to notice them pop up in some of the European aquascapers videos. Like if you watch George, I'm sure you've seen some Awase filters before. They are a European company, but they are moving more and more product over to the US and expanding on the aquarium market. I met with the reps also at Aquashella this year, and they also decided to send me a filter. So here is the Biomaster. That's the series of different canister filters that they have. They have different sizes of this. This is the biggest one, the 600, and this is also the thermo version. We'll talk about that once we pull it out of the box. Look at that, it's got a handle on it. I already like it. That's a nice touch. We also got, I think these are the input, output for the filter. We got anything else in there? Nope. So this is what we got here, guys. Now the main reason why I was interested in this filter was because it has an integrated heater. So we have a 300 watt heater that actually lives inside of the canister filter. It has its separate plug, so you can choose to use it or not use it. That's going to be really nice just from the fact that we don't have to have a heater in the aquarium if we needed to heat the tank. Luckily for me, down here, I don't really use heaters because I heat the room, but if we needed it, we would have it and we wouldn't have to worry about where it lives in our aquascape. And I cannot open this with one hand. Here we go. So we got the tubing and our pipes and whatnot. Let's gently set this down. We don't want to break anything. And we got some instructions. Let's take a look here at the filter, guys, and open it up. This is in no way a review of any of these products. I can't tell you anything about them because I've never used them. Look, I don't even know how to open this thing up. Let's pop this open. Take a look at the guts. Carefully pull this out because our heater is attached. And then I believe this long chamber here above the heater is where we have a bunch of our intake sponges, which we have extra of. Let me go grab those. We have 2 different sizes here. I believe there's even more than this, but different pore size sponges for the initial mechanical filtration that'll take place at the intake of the filter, which is inside of the filter itself, which is pretty cool. So this is a more coarse filter foam, and then this is a little bit finer. And then how we do this is we twist this one-handed very carefully, pull this out, try not to drop the whole filter unit. Oh, there we go. And then these are removable from the intake. So the water comes in and it passes through this area first, through all the little holes in here. And this is ideally the component that you would be changing when you clean your filter, rather than mess with too much of the stuff down in here. So we have tons of these little trays. I'm gonna lay these out. We have some different grades of foam here, and I'm assuming we will eventually get down to where we can put some, yeah, so there's some biomedia down in here, some rings. We have actually 2 trays of that came with it. So we could either keep this, we could replace it with ceramic rings, put in some bio balls, do a different, whatever kind of layering we want to do. We could remove one of these sponges and put biomedia in, these 2 if we wanted to. That's probably something that I might do. You can kind of customize it however you want. I just found my favorite feature of the filter so far though, guys. So when you want to go to clean it, turn this lock, then you can turn this lock, and then this whole unit pops out, so you can wring out the foam that's underneath this little piece here, or you can replace those foam pieces and then just slide it back in. Here's a look at the input and output pieces that come with the Awase filter. So let's get a shot of it here. I have them on the side next to some Lily pipes for a comparison. I'm not sure if I'm eventually going to switch to these. I want to try these out and see how I like them. We have the output configured in just this more traditional form. There's also a spray bar that you can turn this into if you want to. The input is right behind it here. You'll notice that we also have some adjustments we can make for the flow on both the input and the output. So that's kind of interesting. On this tank, they're going to be wide open. We need to get as much out of this thing as possible. And like I mentioned before, once we get the tank set up and we get things running, we'll know pretty soon whether or not we need to either add another filter or do something else for flow. Speaking of water circulation, guys, because our aquarium is 6 feet from side to side, 25 inches deep, we are going to want a good method for moving our water around the tank to make sure all of our plants have the right amount of nutrients and we don't have a lot of dead spots in the aquarium where we can build up detritus. So here I just have an old RW4 wave maker, and this probably won't be the one that we end up using. Current is going to send me one of their newer pumps, but here you can just get an idea of what we're using here. Not something crazy strong. This is a DC pump, so we can modulate the amount of flow that we get out of it. And yeah, I mean, we're going to be using something like this over here on the opposite side of where our filter shoots out, just to encourage a good circular motion of water throughout the tank. The last pieces of equipment are just going to be our CO2 system, guys. So I'm not going to be setting that up in today's video. We'll probably wait until we have the hardscape done, and actually until we have the tank planted and ready to go to really talk about the details behind that. But for that, I am just going to be using a 5, maybe a 10-pound cylinder, along with a CO2 art regulator that I have down here. Corey over at Aquarium Co-op sells these, and I just have an extra one laying around. It has an integrated bubble counter, and so we're going to go ahead and use that. That's actually the same brand of regulator and the same type of setup that I have over on the 340s over there. Now, to diffuse that CO2, I'm not going to be using a, I guess, more standard in-tank diffuser. I want to use an inline diffuser that will actually link into the output of our canister filter. And the idea behind that is that we'll have a more efficient diffusal of CO2 in the tank. That way we won't just be bubbling a ton of CO2 up in the side of the tank. We'll have one less thing in the tank, and I think it's just going to be overall better for the system. Again, we'll get to all that once we get the tank done. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for the equipment. I know this turned into a super long video. Thanks for hanging in there with me. Let me know what you think about my choices here. What would you put on a tank like this? I'm interested to hear what you have to say about it. We'll see how things go with all this. Now it's time that we scape the tank. So I got all my rocks ready, I got all my glue ready, I got some other kind of special materials for this tank, it's time to get started. So again, if you want to see stuff early, don't forget to maybe consider becoming a member of the channel. You'll get to see that before everybody else, as well as bonus footage and content regarding all of this stuff. Thanks again so much for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next one when we start to set this thing up.